Welcome to the studios of Banks Sports Arena with me, Fraser, as the host. Wow, I'm really excited to do this for the first time on this new channel, and it's actually the first of many presentations I will be doing about anything sports. Today we're going to talk about the Belgium magician Eden Hazard. This is one of 4 segments about the footballing career about the Belgium titled The Rise of Eden Hazard. Without wasting much time, let's dive into the real thing and kindly follow till the end. The African king of Stamford Bridge, Didier Drogba, left Manuel Neuer's net rippling and Chelsea supporters all over the world in raptures. More than a month later, the high hadn't quite worn off. The club's future had been riding on that match. Had they lost, the Blues would have paid the price for a disappointing domestic campaign. They'd have been cut off from the Champions League for at least a season, starved of the money and bragging rights required to attract the game's top talent. That penalty kick turned what could have been a lost year into the stuff of legend. What a game that day was. I really enjoyed it from start to end. The perks of holding the European Cup, beyond immediate, delirious joy, that is, were at their most apparent on May 28. What, I'm signing for the Champions League winner, lacked in diction, it more than made up for in impact. Then 21-year-old Eden Hazard, coveted by every team who could even dream of affording him, was Drogba's final gift to Chelsea. He had always been precocious. Growing up in Brainois, Belgium, Hazard was lucky enough to live within meters of Avenue du Stade, his local club's home ground, and at an early age he developed the habit of hopping the fence that separated his parents' home from the pitch, ball in hand, honing his already considerable natural talent through hours of illicit work. Hazard wasn't supposed to be on that pitch. Nobody was, between games. But when he was finally caught, when Royal Stade Brainois general manager Pascal Delmoitier strode the length of the field, intending to forcibly evict the youngster from the newly reseeded surface, there was no punishment. Delmoitier was struck by this barefooted child, guiding penalty after penalty into the top corner when most boys his age would barely be able to get a shot to the goal. When he popped over to Thierry and Karini Hazard's house, Hazard had run away at some speed. Upon realizing that he'd been busted, he gave a rather different talk to what he might have been anticipating upon first noticing the young trespasser. Would Eden, Delmoitier asked, be interested in training with the Stade Brainois juniors? Everything came naturally for Hazard. He knew how to do it all, his natural gifts providing him with so much ability that he was essentially uncatchable. Stade Brainois, a 5th division Belgian side, didn't have the resources to significantly improve him beyond simply letting him play as much football as he could. Hard work combined with prodigious talent, the incredible acceleration that flummoxes the likes of Pablo Zabaleta even today, was already on display, left Hazard simply too good for his opponents. He'd swiftly move on to better things. 5 years in white were followed by another half-decade in the red and yellow of second-tier Tubize. It was here that a then 14-year-old Eden Hazard caught the eye of a few scouts from French club Lille in a local tournament. After speaking with his parents, an offer was accepted, and our man headed off to France to continue his development. Hazard made the move to France. Lille, right against the Belgian border and well known for youth development, was the perfect move for the teenager, and he signed his first professional after 2 seasons with their youth academy. Within months, he'd made his debut, coming on a substitute during the late stages of a Ligue 1 match against Nancy. So, at this point, despite his age, Hazard was shaping up to be exactly what we know him to be today. At LOSC, he displayed a fair few characteristics that have become his trademark. Although he was still growing, his diminutive stature gifted him with a low center of gravity that tremendously aided his balance, agility and ball control. Pair that with his quick feet and electric pace and what you had was a technical beast. And I haven't even mentioned his immense ball retention ability. Hazard didn't stick with the senior side during the 2007-08 season, but he was too good to keep out of Rudy Garcia's plans for long. On September 20, 2008, he became Lille's youngest ever goalscorer, sparking a comeback against Auxerre with an 88th-minute goal, and within months he'd received his first cap for Belgium. Lille were by now in the ascendancy, and Hazard was their shining star. By the time he was 18, he was already one of the top players in France. At 19 he'd scored a match winner against Liverpool in Europe. At 20 he was the devastating force behind the Ligue 1 champions and drawing serious attention from the continent's big guns. Zinedine Zidane personally recommended him to Real Madrid, Arsene Wenger wanted him at the Emirates, and there was continual talk that Chelsea were hoping to bring him to Stamford Bridge. The man played his best season to date at that point, scoring 7 and assisting 11 in the league, helping Lille win an impressive double, Ligue 1 and the Coupe de France, in the same season. Adding on to that, he also won the League One Player of the Year award, making him the youngest winner of the award ever at the time at just 20 years of age. And despite the fact that LOSC failed to retain the league the following season, Hazard went ahead and retained his personal accolades by turning it up just a tad. 20 goals and 16 assists in the league just to wrap up his time at Lille. One story that I came across from one of Hazard's former teammates in Lille, Rio Mavuba, does a great job of portraying what kind of a character he was. As the story goes, the night before his final game for Lille, a farewell party was thrown for Hazard to celebrate his time with the club. And well, one drink led to another and he was left worse for wear following this party. Now I know what you may be thinking, going on a bender the night before a big game? Recipe for disaster, right? Well, in Mavuba's own words, that evening against Nancy, not even with 30 minutes played, Eden had already bagged a hat-trick. The guy had not even slept, he drank for the entire night and he put away a hat-trick in 30 minutes. We all looked at each other, we told ourselves this guy was the real deal. The ensuing transfer saga was both grueling and more than a little ridiculous. Hazard, by then 21, publicly courted several teams over the course of the 2011-12 season, confirming that he was leaving Lille for the Premier League in the summer but refusing to reveal which team he was joining until the end of May. After a drawn-out saga between the Manchester clubs and a fair few other teams, it was Chelsea that were able to convince him most of their project. And to be fair, being recently crowned as the Kings of Europe is a pretty nifty bargaining chip. The public flirtation with a slew of top clubs left a bad taste in many mouths, but any Chelsea supporter with doubts about their new signing would have been quickly mollified by his fast start to life in English football. In his first 3 Premier League games, Hazard contributed to 6 goals. Chelsea began the season against Wigan Athletic at the DW Stadium, and within the first 2 minutes the 21-year-old made quite the impression, leaving Ivan Ramis for dead in the center circle before releasing Branislav Ivanovic with a killer pass for his first Chelsea assist. There were more to come. Installed as part of a fluid attacking trident alongside Juan Mata and Oscar, between 2012 and 2015, the Chelsea Player of the Year award was only won by these two. Juan Mata and Hazard, which only makes sense if you got a chance to watch them back then. Bringing the focus back to Hazard, based on that previous bit of information, it goes without saying his performances were earning him a very large fanbase, as he went on to score 23 goals in the league, providing 18 assists, in 69 appearances over the next 2 seasons. Chelsea climbed up to third in each of those seasons and he even earned himself a spot in the PFA Team of the Year twice in a row, as well as the PFA Young Player of the Year award in 2014. And the cherry on the cake? He won his first major European trophy this year too, the Europa League. Although, in the middle of all of this, there was an altercation with a ball boy that was, hazardous, to say the least. A match against Swansea. After deliberately lying on the ball to Tidmy Waste, Hazard kicked the ball from underneath the boy and received a red card. The kid subsequently admitted to time wasting on purpose, so perhaps the kicking was justified. Side note, this kid is the co-owner of a pretty successful vodka company now. Which is a fun fact, I guess. Hazard was producing some incredible moments. At his best, he was unplayable, with goals against West Ham and Sparta Prague showing off his uncanny strength, delicate touch and lightning-fast acceleration. The opposition would regularly resort to double-teaming the Belgian, and when he was having a good day 2 defenders was nowhere near enough to stop him. But despite Hazard's obvious genius, there was a nagging doubt about his first season with the Blues. 13 goals and 20 assists was an incredible return, of course, but considering his ridiculous ability, it wasn't unreasonable to hope for much more anyway. By the time the 2014-15 season came along, now wearing the number 10 jersey vacated by Juan Mata, Hazard had truly ascended into world-class territory. In Jose Mourinho's second stint in charge of Chelsea, the club went on to reclaim the top spot in the Premier League, with Hazard playing a starring role. 14 goals and 9 assists in the league. Not bad. Premier League Player of the Season? Yeah, sounds about right. 8th place in the 2015 Ballon d'Or? Yeah, no complaints here. That sentiment would have been familiar to supporters of the Belgian national am. For years, Hazard had failed to live up to expectations with the Red Devils, often finding himself benched in favor of obviously inferior competition. There was a sense that he wasn't making the most of his ability even when he did play, and that he wasn't taking his football seriously enough either. That image had been solidified in 2011, when the substituted Hazard was caught eating a hamburger outside the ground while the match he'd just been playing in was ongoing. Hazard was suspended for 3 games by a furious Georges Leekens, but only served 1 match of his ban before being reinstated. For Belgium, it's not enough for Hazard to be a very good player with flashes of otherworldly ability. And the national team found an ally in José Mourinho, whose first pronouncement on his 22-year-old star demanded that he cut the inconsistency out of his game. I want more responsibility and more ambition. When you are a normal player, you have to be happy if you perform okay, when you have actions during the game that show quality. But when you are a top talent, you can't waste that talent, when somebody gives you that talent. I think at this talent level he is somebody very above us. I want to give him that responsibility and ambition for the kid to be better and better and to express himself on the pitch match after match. Don't be up and down, but to always be at the top of his game, because he has the conditions to be a top player. This is what I want. Whether I can get it I don't know, but he is working very, very hard. I'm very happy with the kid. Mourinho's tutelage focused first on Hazard's defensive responsibilities, long a sore spot with his coaches. Within weeks, Hazard turned himself into a dual threat, capable of pressing anywhere on the pitch before transitioning seamlessly to attack when Chelsea won back the ball. Despite the vast improvement on the defensive side of his game, Hazard was still struggling to make the attacking impact his talent demanded. He'd spent the 2012-13 season being overshadowed by Mata. Now the same was happening again with Oscar in the Spaniard's place. Hazard was doing well enough, he had 6 goals by December, but he hadn't heeded Mourinho's advice. His sublime talent was still largely untapped, and he even managed to get himself in disciplinary trouble after losing his passport and ending up late to training as a result. Then, on a cold night in Wearside, everything fell into place. The December 4th match against Sunderland saw perhaps the finest individual performance from a Chelsea player in the past 2 years. Hazard was instrumental in the 4-3 victory, contributing a magnificent assist for the Blues' first goal before notching an astonishing double. His goals were incredible, combining his mesmerizing technical skills with lethal finishing, and the Black Cats simply had no answer for him. He looked utterly lethal whenever he had that ball, prolonging his famed moments of magic into a 90-minute spell of utter dominance. The match against Sunderland was Hazard's coming-out party. 2 weeks later, during the League Cup quarter-final loss, Sunderland supporters were still treating Hazard as a sort of personal boogeyman. His appearance from the substitutes bench saw an appalled hush fall over the Stadium of Light, drawing the same sort of trepidation normally reserved for Drogba at the Emirates. Eden Hazard had arrived. Since the beginning of December, that's nearly 3 months now, Hazard has been a new player. There's no longer any doubt which Hazard will turn up in games, and he's progressed to the point that he's clearly the club's #1 attacking weapon. His emergence as a truly world-class force has coincided with a run that's taken Chelsea to the top of the Premier League table, and since Sunderland he's scored against Swansea, Liverpool and Hull, as well as notching an impressive hat-trick against Newcastle. This is no mere purple patch. After his extraordinary display against Manchester City, which helped inspire Chelsea to a 1-0 win against a side which had, until then, been unstoppable at home, the manager hailed his charge as the best young player in the world, comparing his potential to the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. It's never been ludicrous to put Hazard in that category, of course, but he's far closer now to realizing his potential than he was even 6 months ago. As Mourinho would say, every elite footballer has to make the jump from great talent to great player at some point in their careers, and right now Hazard's trajectory is taking him to the stars. Before I draw the curtains down on this elite rise of Eden Hazard, kindly subscribe, like and share, and don't forget to put in your comments on what you think about the Belgium magician. Stay tuned for the other 3 segments of the footballing career of the Belgium international. Thanks for watching and have a blessed day.